Welcome to in 5 minutes. Now I'll write a program for matrix addition using bit different way. It will be same program with similar logic, only we'll be writing user defined functions to input matrix and output matrix. Obviously we'll be writing two different functions, one to input matrix and one to display matrix. Now this will be bit generalized functions which will be inputting matrix of given size. So the size of the matrix to be input will be again given as parameters. So according to parameters input for the function will input or output the matrix of given dimensions. Okay, so first function we have defined over here. We'll start program with normal hash include commands. Then there's a first function defined over here. Name is input function. We can add any name we want. Here I defined a function name as input. It's a void function because the function is not supposed to return any value. Function has first parameter as a 2D array. Name is m. When you're defining a 2D array as a parameter, we can mention both the dimensions for the array, or we have to at least mention the column size while defining the array. So I defined the size as 5. Then we mention number of rows and columns to be actual input, that is dimensions of the matrix. For example, if rows is 2 and columns is 3, it stands for this function is supposed to input a 2 by 3 matrix. Now this will input 2 by 3 matrix using normal nested for loop that we have seen previously in previous programs. We'll define ing variables for looping, then one for loop for rows, I equal to 0 to I less than rows, and other for loop j equal to 0 to j less than columns. And then we'll do scanf function to input mij. So here it will input matrix into m array of size given by user, that is rows and columns. For example, if rows and columns are 2 and 3, then this function will input a 2 by 3 matrix into given m array. Last line repeat. If the input size given is 2 and 3, then this function will input the values into m array of size 2 by 3. Now when data will be input into this array, the data will be input into the actual array in main. Now to understand that, we have to see the entire program working. Okay. So this first function was just to input matrix of given rows and columns. We'll define other function, a defined function as named display. The function is again a void function because function is supposed to just output data on screen. The first parameter is the array to be output. It's again a 2D array, and the number of rows and columns, that is dimensions for the array. For example, if rows is 3 and columns is 4, this function is supposed to display the values in m in 3 by 4 matrix form, that is 3 by 4 row column form. For that we have defined again ing variables for looping, then we have printf \n just to ensure that there will be new line generated before this output starts working. And then using this nested for loop, we have output all the values of mij using normal printf with /t for generating tab between multiple values in a row and to generate a new line after every row is displayed. And this is just a line printed with some dots. This is not required, you need not write in exams. So printf with few dots over here and then 2/n. This will just display an horizontal line with two new lines. Okay, so input function will input array of given dimensions, that is matrix of given dimensions, and display function will display matrix of given dimensions in row column format. Now we need to use these functions obviously in main. So main will be performing some part of a program. In main, obviously we'll first define 3 two-dimensional arrays and some variables for looping and rows and columns. Then we'll input the dimensions for the matrix to be operated, say rows and columns, suppose it's 2 and 3. Then we'll input the two matrices a and b using above input functions. So we'll call this input function twice, once for a, once for b. Then we'll do addition of a and b and store into c using nested for loop. We'll use the formula add aij plus bij and store into cij element. And then we'll display the two matrices which were input, that is a and b, the original matrices which were input, and then we'll display the resultant matrix also. Now to display the input matrices and resultant matrix, we'll utilize the display function. So we'll call display function 3 times. Once for A matrix, second time for B matrix, and third time for resultant matrix, that is C. So that will be our overall program. Now how to write nested for loop, how to write printf, scanf, those things we know. So the overall program we'll see working using practicals using Turbo C.